Hello and welcome to Grow Talks panel discussion series jointly organized by the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Germany in Singapore together with the Singapore Embassy in Berlin, coming together on the occasion of 60 years of bilateral diplomatic relations between Germany and Singapore. I'm Augustine Athwan, your moderator for this panel series. Today, we bring you the second of a four-part special, and the topic for the panel discussion, Two Lands of Ideas. The Global Innovation Index of 2025, compiled by the World Intellectual Property Organization, headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, measures innovation performance access across 140 economies. And according to the latest report, Singapore ranks number 5 and Germany 11 among the 139 economies worldwide. Both nations are known for turning ideas into impact, combining deep expertise, strong institutions, and a relentless drive to innovate. Yet, in today's uncertain world, how are these innovation powerhouses continuing to thrive? How are challenges from digital transformation to sustainability not just testing, but fueling innovation? And what makes each ecosystem unique, from Germany's vibrant startup landscape to Singapore's close collaboration between government, the research, and the industry? And most importantly, what can we learn from each other as we shape the future of innovation together? So this is where we'd like to involve you, members of the audience. Please do think about the questions that have been flagged, and also do raise your pressing questions. What would you like to pose to the panel? Do challenge our panel, and together over the next hour, we hope to have a serious, robust discussion on a range of issues. Meanwhile, let me introduce our panel today, starting right on my left. On my right, rather, Dr. Tan Sian Wee, Senior Vice President for Innovation and Enterprise at the National University of Singapore. Can we have a round of applause?
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Yao Tang, Head of Investment Promotion for ASEAN at the Germany Trade and Invest, which is the economic development agency of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Yeah, nice to see everyone here.
Dr. Thai Lai Pham, President and CEO of Siemens in ASEAN.
Thank you for having me.
And Holger Lindner, Chief Executive Officer of the Global Product Service Division at Tufsut Group, a leading global technical service organization. Panel, thank you so much for making the time to be with us on the Grow Talk series. Let's kick off our first segment. I've titled it Partnership. And I want to begin with you, Yao. How do Germany and Singapore complement each other in innovation and economic transformation?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So at GTAI, we support companies from Singapore to expand to Germany. And I see these complementary areas from very practical perspective, because our everyday life is working with the local companies. And I would say Germany and Singapore, first, they share many similarities. They are very innovation driven, they are quality focused, and they are also long-term oriented, but they also bring different strengths to the table. So for example, Germany, it's a big market that many companies looking to scale overseas look for. And it has a deep R&D system, and it also has a great industrial base. Compared with Germany, Singapore is a small market, but it's very agile. And it's also very good in digitalization and commercialization. Many Asian companies or Southeast Asian companies, they take Singapore as a launch pad to scale overseas. So that would be the complementary from the overall perspective. And talking about sectors, I also identified several sectors that I see a special synergy between the two countries. For example, semiconductor, healthcare, mobility, and also renewable energy, like related to sustainable technologies. And from Our ASEAN hub was set up only last year. So during my past 1 year experience, I also observed several patterns of companies going from Southeast Asia or Asia to Germany. I would say, firstly, they would look at Germany as a big market and a gateway to Europe. So it means they go to the market. It's for this market, for this big market. And the second one would be to ride on its big digitization and sustainability wave. And for German market, it's a very high standard market compared with some Asian markets, right? So that's a market where your innovation and sustainability solutions really pay off. And the third pattern, I would say, it's for the R&D ecosystem. So I encountered a case. It's a Singapore robotics company. They went to Germany. They partnered with a German R&D institute and a German company. Then they upgraded to be a made in Germany product, robotics. So then they scale overseas to global market through Germany. So that are some of the patterns I have observed. So I would say, because of this big market, small market, and also, the industrial base, I think Germany and Singapore are natural partners regarding that.
Thank you so much. I want to segue to Sian. I think that's a perfect launch. Semiconductors, health, mobility, renewable energies, robotics. What are your thoughts about this, Sian?
I think that's accurate. We have up in the pipeline some very interesting innovations, right, coming through, specifically in the areas of optical chips, especially in 3 dimensions. Okay, sounds very geeky, but I'll just simplify it for you. If we continue right along this path of that kind of development, and if we are successful, that might mean 5 to 10 years from now, we can have memory chips and other things that are working at anywhere from 1,000 to 100,000 times existing technologies right now. So think of ChatGPT, for example, everything on your phone, right? So we have also, other things in cyber AI, because all the cyber online threats, right, that you see out there right now, hacking and so forth, it's all automated, right? So the question then is, how do you protect against this? And the only way is to fight automation with automation. And so we have technologies now that are looking at patching these systems in real time by generating computer code, right, to defend in real time. So this is an example of the 2 kinds of technologies that we see happening right now that are right in the forefront of things. And at the National University of Singapore, we are angling for quality rather than numbers or 20% improvements and all. So our bar, right, we have an investment fund of $150 million right now, of which we are investing 50 million Singapore dollars in select VCs around the world that can actually help us in this journey in select geographies. And the other 100 million will be made in direct investment. So our bar for investments out there is very simple. If your performance divided by cost is 5 times or more, then that's something we'll take a very serious look at. So that's basically our standpoint, and we see the European Union as a very large market. As it was pointed out, we don't really have that much of a market here, and the closest one is 6 hours, to the north by plane. And so it's an exciting time.
Right. But thank you, Sian, for giving us that broad overview. Lai, where are we now, and where is this partnership heading? I mean, and do include in your response, what has been the important factor for your organization's business in Singapore?
Thank you very much for your question. You may know that Siemens was founded in 1847. But did you know that Siemens already since 1908 in Singapore? So this is more than 115 years. We are present in this country, and this is in 1908 where we first provide the first electric equipment for the country. And since then, we grow in a tandem with the country. So we were honored and privileged enough to contribute to upgrade and build up the basic infrastructure of the country. So we talk about electrification. My colleague Torbjörn talk about this. We talk about healthcare infrastructure. We talk about water infrastructure. So we have the opportunity to grow together with the country. We have been here also in many fields, the first company or the first German company to invest in this country. I see my colleague for Infineon sitting here in the room. We were the ones who put semiconductor as the first company into Singapore. We were the ones who were working together with, for example, the New Water Initiative in Singapore together. And now going forward, and this is maybe to also touch base to what Yao and the colleague are saying, is that Singapore, and if we take the context beyond Singapore, because we are addressing not only the Singapore market, but also the ASEAN market with 650 million people, Singapore is playing a very important role for Siemens. Why? Because we are finding here a lot of customers who are willing to test bed and co-create with us innovations which we are deploying in the headquarters. And we would like to test bed with them and try out and co-create and exporting it into the region and sometimes also to the world. I can name a few examples. We were working here with vertical farming, for example. We are working with local SMEs. You mentioned the robotic company. We are also working with them together. And with all the solution, we are not deploying for customer here in the country, but also exporting them going forward. And today, Singapore is the headquarter of our regional hub, and we are employing more than 1,200 people in this country.
Thank you so much, Lai, for that overview. And yeah, so do keep that point about the test bed, and I love your example of vertical farming. We'll come back to that in the conversation. But let's bring Holger into the conversation now. Holger, from Tufsut's perspective, how do strong regulatory frameworks help build trust and drive innovation across the borders between Germany and Singapore?
Thanks for the question. That is maybe a counterintuitive statement, because regulation is oftentimes perceived as a hindrance or a necessary evil.
Exactly.
As the dentist, where you fix your teeth, not to give you a better smile.
Yeah.
So why would good regulation actually be an enabler? And at Tufsut, we're a technical service provider, agnostic and independent, but we see ourselves as a partner for partners, and the topic is partnership. So the idea is, you mentioned in the beginning, to go from ideas to impact. We help companies, startups or established companies, to harness the benefits of technology in a way that is performing, it's safe, it's secure, sustainable. And by doing that, giving them access to global markets, to scale up and to make a commercial impact. So it's not only to do good, but it's also to make commercial impact. And regulation is actually a key driver if it is understood positively, in a way that it gives you standards. Standards are not owned by small entities, but they're applicable to everyone. So they define the playing field in which everybody can compete. Fact-based, transparent, reproducible, auditable. So it actually gives some guidance, especially when technology like today in AI or energy or robotics is developing so fast that many companies are overwhelmed in saying, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that my product is safe and compliant? But the key is not to stop at compliance at the tick box, but look at the impact of what regulation tries to achieve. And then to act in a way to deliver against the impact. And I'll give you an example. Recently, we worked together with a Singaporean company, Cora Environmental. It's rebranded, used to be Semwaste and Semcorp Environmental. And they invest a lot into becoming a regional player of recyclability, recycled content. And we worked together with them, combining existing standards, as incomplete as they were, but we had some elements where we could say, okay, these are globally accepted benchmarks, the GAG protocol and local practices, best practices. And we put it together into a framework which is called the Responsible Recyclability Mark, which just gives the company credibility on an international platform to say these are the things we do to make sure that we don't greenwash, that we really have robust systems in place to fulfill the claim we do in terms of increasing recycled content and recyclability. And that's the approach where, in the absence of regulation, companies supported by us already act in the impact of what does this regulation try to achieve and accomplish. So outcome-based regulation.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I like this point about the responsible recycling, Mark, and this point about it's not just compliance, but needing to impact. Panel, feel free to jump in on anyone's responses, but I want to move us into the next part of this conversation. What are some of the standout collaborations or success stories that highlight how partnerships is creating real impact? And I want to put this under the banner of climate challenges. We are facing real challenges and the clock is ticking. And for those who believe in the climate science, innovation needs to lead to real solutions, which can also address some of the climate targets and the UN Sustainable Development Goals as well. Sian, can I invite you to lead us perhaps in this round?
Yes, I think, having been actually an entrepreneur in the space, right, some time ago, yes, there is a push for this, right? But especially in times of higher interest rates right now, because a lot of the projects, right, are partially financed by debt as well as equity. So if the payback time is far too long, right, then it doesn't necessarily make commercial sense, right, for a 15, 20-year-long project to pay back and all that, which actually slows things down. So we are actually more focused in radical steps, right, to address this, rather than, for example, doing the next thing in carbon capture or something. We're looking, for example, at quantum software, which actually forms a layer above the actual qubits, of which there are approximately, I think, 25,000 around the world nowadays. But using that mathematics behind that, right, to be able to pair quantum technologies together with GPUs, to be able to get, for example, training times of LLMs, right, down by 90%, right? There are mathematical foundations that are ongoing in this right now. So even though we are looking at materials, even though we are looking at carbon capture, even though we are looking at every step, right, of that value chain, right, for the environment, I think that only with radical means, right, will we actually be able to achieve that target, because there also has to be an economic drive, right, to have that level of sustainability.
I want to pick that word, radical. Lai, anything radical happening in your area of the work?
I cannot agree more than what you were saying. On the other hand, I also believe that technology, innovation, and digitalization in particular is a key enabler for sustainability. And you illustrate a lot about the generation side, on the consumption side. And today with AI, we can do so much in terms of optimizing the whole value chain and the consumption chain. I can illustrate a number of examples. So let's take digital twin technology. You can use digital twin technology today to virtually build your facility. You can build your product virtually. You can build literally almost every physical object physically. And what kind of advantage does it bring to you? It brings to you is that you don't need to physically build it, and then you waste time, you waste energy, you waste a lot of resources. You can virtually play with it before you find the optimal design for your product, the optimal design for your facility, and even manufacturing processes. So in the sense, that helps you also to be sustainable. Or in our factory, we are using energy digital twin to simulate and simulate and model our energy consumption of buildings, and by doing that, we can predict when is load, when is energy. We can also use digital twin technology to create heat maps of buildings, where you then can use dedicated cooling technology to cool only the part of the building that actually need to be cooled. Or even more, or even a shop floor, we talk about robotics, we talk about AGVs that moving around the factory. You can even use AI to optimize the way how they move around in the factory, in the shop floor, in order to save energy as well. So literally you can use digital technology today to optimize. And I'm not even talking about you need or how digital technology can support to make also where's your consumption, where's the CO2 emission is taking place across the entire value chain, and so on and so forth.
I want to move the panel now to the next part of our conversation. We've labeled it working with the local community. And I want to jump to Yao. How does Germany Trade and Invest work with Singapore's innovation and business community? How do you foster collaboration and support companies expanding?
Yeah. So as I have mentioned, we established our hub, ASEAN Hub in Singapore last year. And during this 1 year experience, one of the observations or impressions I felt for the local community is that they may not so familiar with the German market. They may think Germany is a bit distant for Singapore. So because of this mindset, I'm also trying to work with the local community to raise the market awareness and give them tailored consultations. So this group of companies, they may have questions range from, for example, what opportunities that does German market offer, to how could my technology fit into it, to how can we set up business in Germany. So tackling these questions, I worked with government agencies such as Enterprise Singapore. They have a very strong the mission to help companies globalize. There's also a Singapore Business Federation and many industry-specific associations like Semiconductor Association and National Robotics Program, and also VCs and the accelerators actually, because we also work with startups. So in this way, we give them the market knowledge and also tailored consultation. So yeah, I also want to highlight that we not only work with corporates, we work with startups a lot. Yeah.
A wonderful panel. They're always looking to me because they're waiting for like, how much time do I have? How much time do I have? Yeah. So I want to bring Sian into the conversation. Your own community, you work with a range of people at National University of Singapore, plus you have personal linkages to Germany. How do you see this conversation on working with the local community and startups moving forward?
I think for us, right, we are at the cusp, right, of commercializability in terms of the technologies that we have in the university. So the reality is somewhat sad, but it's absolutely true. If you take a look at all the technologies that we develop, right, 70% of them will end up being a subsystem of a larger solution that is being made either, right, in a specialized economy like in Shenzhen in China, or it could be a subcomponent, right, in Siemens technology. So the other challenge that we have, right, as Singaporeans is that, you know, for the remaining 30%, for the new technologies that come up, we don't have scale. Because, you know, cost drives everything, right? And if our GDP per capita here is 50 times that of Myanmar's, right? It's very, very, very difficult for any startup to drop that pricing, right, by those factors. So we are looking to Germany, and I'm very happy to say we've got a very healthy relationship with the Technical University of Munich, specifically Unternehmertum. Hello, Helmut. You know, nice to be your advertisement. But the Unternehmertum, right, has been a beacon, right, of doing university spin-outs correctly, right? They are definitely the most prolific and successful, I would argue, innovation system in Europe right now. They have 21 unicorns, right, throughout their course of life. And so we are very happily working with them. And I had a very small part in playing in that because I had introduced my Stanford professors to Helmut in 2007. And the Makerspace, which is their rapid prototyping lab, right, is essentially born out of the work of my professors, taking Silicon Valley know-how and design techniques, but then perfected, right, by the Unternehmertum folks, right? And I mean really perfected. So kudos, and we look forward to more interesting things in that regard.
And I do urge the panel, please do spare some time to talk about unicorns. It's a personal fascinating topic for myself. And so if we have remaining time, please do bring it up in the conversation. But very quickly, Holger, for TÜV-SÜD, you're a global organization with a local relevance. And I understand from the research, 150 countries or more. How do you ensure innovation remains purposeful and relevant to the local needs?
It's actually very simple, and my fellow panelists gave the answer. You need to focus on the problem you want to solve locally. And in the case of Singapore, that's actually quite good, because when you resolve a problem here through technology, through innovation that you bring in from other parts of the world and combine it with the local prowess of education and ingenuity, you get two things for free. One is Singapore has a brand that gives it a proof of a stamp of approval that if it works here, it's scalable and it's trusted. The quality is good, and the other thing is, even though you may not have the market here, if it works in the context of good governance in Singapore, the likelihood that you know how to scale it to other markets is quite high. So an example where now I don't talk about the innovation prize or the sustainability prize we got on the earlier product, but an internal technology prize where we had a solution but no problem, which was a
We have a lot of those.
Yes, and we found the problem here in Singapore. So the solution was a lift manager. It's basically a set of sensors that you install on lifts, agnostic of the manufacturer. And those sensors together would allow you to predict the health of the lifts and maintain them remotely and predict when you have to go in to exchange parts before it breaks down.
Fascinating, all right.
And in Singapore, the problem case was there because companies like JTC or HDB, right, they have multi-brand lifts. Every manufacturer sells their own suite of products, but you want to have one that is independent and allows you to manage all the 30,000 lifts. So we came in, engaged BCA and said, why don't we try whether you have any tangible commercial benefits out of installing our innovation prize, and seeing in a real test case what it does. And as an outcome, you could save about 30% of manpower because you did not have to go to lifts that were perfectly healthy. You could basically avoid a breakdown and accidents. And BCA, and now I come to the good governance, went one step further and said, okay, we introduce that as a local standard. And for those companies who incur the cost, and we talked about cost in the first panel, who see it as an investment to upgrade their lifts, you can reduce your mandatory inspection intervals from 1 month to once a quarter. So there was immediately the commercial benefit. And it was basically on a silver plate. The entire case, we knew the pain point, we had the solution, and we also knew how to commercialize that. And that, together with the participating partners, defined the commercial envelope of this product on a global basis.
I love what you said, Holger. You need to focus on the problem you want to solve locally. Nice segue to bring our audience in the studio. And once again, the floor manager will give me a cue. Is there anyone who has got a pressing question? We have covered partnership, and we are exploring now what's working with the local community. Is there a question that you believe the panel hasn't addressed, or you want to challenge them on a particular point? We can take a quick one. Okay, while they're mulling over this, all right, I do have one question that has come up listening to all of you. What needs to happen right now in the educational institutions? What changes do you want to see happening within the institutions? I'm going to be tough on CN. I mean, start with your institution at NUS.
So we're doing a couple of very radical things, taking a look at as the entire thing for commercialization of bringing new technologies to life as a chain, right? Starting from the undergraduate portion, where we are sending people to overseas, right? Our most successful program, by the way, for sending people overseas to work on startups, right, for their third year of their undergraduate program is Stockholm. So for some very interesting cultural reasons, we sent 360 people there over the last 20 years. And this cohort has started 130 companies, right? This is far greater than the most popular place, which is Silicon Valley, right? So there's a very strong cultural element there, right? So moving on from the undergrad part, which we are sharpening right now by introducing things like psychometric tests to make sure that, people really want to look into entrepreneurship as a viable career path, all the way to commercialization, meaning you're working inside a lab. You think you have something inside there. With our GRIP programs, graduate research innovation programs, to sharpen that idea and bring it more commercial, going then on to the fund that I talked about, right, which is specifically looking for the best ideas, but coupling that with a new program that we're going to launch, which is this concept of outposts, meaning we're going to set up permanent locations in large markets, large innovation markets. Silicon Valley will be our first one, because that's an area that we understand best, where this will be staffed by people that are part academic, part industry, and part startups. So it's not your average academic style institutions, but these will then drive the planning of research into the future back to us. So imagine, right, that if you're in a company like Siemens, for example, you have roadmaps that go along this direction in a variety of spheres, right? And so our attempt will be to match that over time in the same point in time and space by giving more monies, right, for specific research directions that we know, right, that have a much better chance, right, of being something that can be used by the world in 5 years, for example.
Thank you, Sian. I just want to also help the panel and the audience understand the topic of youth and education came up in the first panel. And it's actually a perfect segue to, we are now in the third part of our discussion, talent and skills development. That's why I launched, I know all of you have pressing points to raise, and so you have the mics, you can always override me and take it where you want to go. But can I just quick check with the audience? Otherwise, I will come back. Yeah, go ahead, sir. A question here.
Okay. Sorry. I have one quick question because I think we're talking about the economy, we're talking about innovations. I think innovation always stay at the large enterprise, and of course we focus on startup a little bit here and there. But based on the fact that Germany drive a deep industrial decarbonization technology, and Singapore also try to positioning ourselves as a green tech and innovation hub as well. How do you think that partnership between Germany and Singapore can help ASEAN SME, which is the backbone of our economy, which is more than 90%? So to access the low carbon technology as well as AI tool that we're discussing, right?
Yeah, thank you so much. Excellent question, and I'm glad you brought up the SMEs because that's the earlier point on local community. Lai, would you like to pick up on that?
So wow, so it's a very, very complex and very good question. So I would try to answer it from a different perspective. You were asking about energy transition also in Germany and how we can do. I think there's a lot where the two countries can leverage on one another. Germany has gone through this energy transition for a while now, so I think there's good experience there. We also know that the energy dependency from Singapore is largely on fossil, and so Singapore is also looking into, together with the ASEAN country, how to build up a energy market. And I think there's another aspect where I think Europe and Germany in particular can help to leverage on the knowledge and the implementation as well. The other aspect, of course, when we talk about microgrids and the fourth, because of course, if you decentralize your generation, then you need to have also a grid that is capable to manage. It's not only for Singapore in particular, but also for the ASEAN grid when we look into largely, because I think if we want to have a sustainable energy supply in the region, we need to have the context of the region, and Singapore alone will not solve the situation because we are so much depending on other resources. Now to the SMEs, a very good question, I think, how to also helping the SMEs, and you're touching base a very good point when you talk about startup, but I think the same is also valid for the SMEs because the market is small and they need to scale and they need to be competitive for the world market. And the answer is automation, it's about innovation technology. And I think that today, and I will talk a little bit later about what we are planning to do here, we are investing here, even all the cost factors you're mentioning is against that. But because of technology, because of automation technology and digitalization technology, you can make it competitive at the end of the day. So I think there's a good window for SMEs locally here to team up with a lot of, actually not only Siemens as a company, but a lot of companies in Germany, how to automate, how to digitalize, and then by doing that to be also competitive going forward.
I'll come back to you, Lai, later on the reskilling of the Singapore workforce, but Holger, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in on a completely different aspect to the answer to your question. That is the mindset of simplicity. I mean, we are very good in Germany, especially, to be driven by perfection and making things so complex that SMEs are overwhelmed and they don't know where to start. That is where I think Singapore is very good once a problem is identified to basically go for it and find a solution in a pragmatic way. And I think there we can really learn from each other. And if you just look at the EU, there is so much good regulation being drafted currently for medical devices, for AI, for battery notified bodies, battery passports. But it is complex. And it is driven by a mindset of perfection rather than let's be good enough for now and increase time to market so we really can harness the benefits today rather than in 5 years.
But one of the topics that came up in the first panel was on hydrogen. So how do you see competence development in innovative areas, sectors like hydrogen?
Okay, I also tap on the first panel where basically the answer was we have all the tools and it was a hype, and now we have more realistic views as to what is needed now and what works now. So I think hydrogen is the best form of energy storage and generation and transmission that you can find. The problems are all resolved in technology, but they're still expensive and they still like infrastructure. So there will be a pathway towards hydrogen, maybe not exclusively and maybe not as fast as in the initial hype people hoped or thought, but it's definitely the most sustainable path of energy management. So I think this warrants, I share your enthusiasm for hydrogen. I'm very happy that Singapore...
It's a pet subject of mine.
It's a pet subject, yeah. And you know, Singapore did not look at hydrogen at all, and then it came back again after some European companies lobbied for it. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of potential for startups as well. Yeah. And we should follow.
Yao go ahead.
Yeah, just hydrogen is also one of my pet topic. So I want to add up on that. So about hydrogen, I also talked to some hydrogen companies here or the Hydrogen Association about, you know, what is Singapore is good at and what Germany is good at and what is complementary and how the partnership should look like. I think for that, I get some of the insights would be, so for the hydrogen area, because Singapore is small and it's usually focused on hydrogen storage and hydrogen usage instead of hydrogen generation. But in Germany, because of the energy transition, you know, we have a big ambition to go carbon neutral. Germany actually has a full chain of hydrogen. So the electrolyzer from the generating from the wind, actually offshore wind, onshore wind, to generate the energy for hydrogen, and then you store it and then use it. So in this case, Germany has a more complete chain that the Singapore company or the ASEAN company, they can look at Germany as an example in terms of this. However, I also see cases that the digital technology of Singapore companies that can thrive in Germany in terms of hydrogen. For example, they have this management tool, energy management tool for this hydrogen. So I would say in this area, it's really, depending on the sector, it's really a complementary. Yeah.
And we will put a stop there on the hydrogen because I don't want anyone to think, oh, Augustine is letting it get too far. But for Lai and for Sian, I want to bring the conversation back to the people. The people are the core. So for Lai, I mean, big MNCs can pull off, literally what we call, if there's such a thing as a little miracle. But in the end of the day, you still need to attract and integrate the talents to drive innovation and to maintain that competitive edge. How do you do this, Lai?
Yeah, thank you. I was about to talk about this as well. So I would like to touch base two sides. Yeah. So one is what we are doing actively, and one is about what do we believe are the skill set, and you elaborate a little bit on that one, on the skills force of the future. So of course we're believing in ecosystem. We are here to stay, as you know, that over 115 years. So we see ourselves as a local company, right? So we want to be integrated in the society and the system here. And in terms of talents, we are engaging in different levels. So we're starting actually in secondary school already. So we have partnership with high schools where a student can come in and have a stint for a couple of weeks to see what's actually going on in such a corporate environment, and they can experience already in secondary school. Of course, that continues, and we go to higher education. We are offering an internship program for students who want to do who works part-time doing study. For example, I was studying at TUM, by the way. So thank you for promoting my university. By the way, I'm the president of the TUM alumni chapter in Singapore as well. So
all of you should get together after this.
And when I was a student in Munich, so I worked part-time, right? And I start right away when I study. And that was actually one of the best decisions I make, because then I have in tandem theoretical education at university. On the other hand, I know what's going on in the corporate. I know what the engineers are facing with. I know what the bosses are doing. So that gives a super insight into what to be expect, and also to decide what do you like to do later on and not. So internship program. But then when graduates are graduating, they have opportunity to join us in engineering graduate program. It's a 1.5 years program where they are running through different departments and different countries. And the same we are also offering to the commercial side. And it's quite successful. Many of them are now in the management position. And we are rotating and we are running that on a regular basis. Now back on the skill set, and I think when we talk about skills and what we would expect for the future generation of talents, I think the elephant in the room is AI. So, and we are talking about a technology that today is for sure a hype, right? It's overhyped. Everywhere you hear about AI, and the shares of all the AI companies are just rocket. On the other hand, I strongly believe AI is here to stay. And we can compare AI probably as a technology that comes maybe once in a century.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about all this about electricity or power, 100 years ago everything was dark, right? And then this technology comes and we have light in the world. So AI is here to stay. So therefore, and we know how powerful AI is. When I was a student and when I did my PhD, I have to learn a lot of coding languages. So starting with TUM, when you study TUM, electrical engineering, you learn a language called Modular 2. I don't know if some of you can relate to this, yeah? And so on and so forth. I did my PhD in so-called ubiquitous computing. Then I have to learn JavaScript, and you can name of them. So I spend almost 50% of my time doing PhD to learn coding language, and only maybe 50% to solve the problem I'm supposed to solve. And now with AI and large language model, you don't have to do it anymore, because that will take it away. So what skill set do you need? So you need foundational skill set. You need to be able to formulate the problems for your AI to code what you want it to code. So you have to switch into the skill set will be different, because there are so much things that AI can do for you, better, efficient, and faster. And the other aspect, I think, so foundational skills is very important. And the other aspect, of course, the human aspect of people, empathy and social skills. These are the things I think very difficult for AI today to take over.
I'm smiling because you raised the elephant in the room is AI is actually the discussion topic for the fourth panel on Grow Talks.
Sorry for this.
No, it's perfect because the thread is there. So fourth panel will be discussing this and the theme is new ways to success. But I'm going to throw the tough question to Sian. I like what you said, like we need to solve the problem that we have to solve. How are you doing this, Sian, at your campus?
So, one fun fact right now is that the winners, right, of the current year's hackathon were a couple of teams that did not have any formal programming experience. Think about that for a second. They did not have any formal programming experience, but they won a hackathon. Okay? So we are at NUS next year, as a matter of fact, in the next academic year, we're starting a course on agent-based programming for large-scale software systems, because the way of programming, just like Dr. Pham said, is completely changed right now. So now you have a bunch of agents, state-of-the-art technology. By the way, my PhD was actually in AI before it became fashionable. So I feel I'm somewhat qualified to say this. So the way, right, in which we are going to be coding is going to become fundamentally different, right? It's like taking 4 people in the audience, right? And they're people. People forget things. They do wrong things. They make mistakes. Sometimes they are very productive, right? This is what you get with agents right now. This is literally leading edge or bleeding edge right now. Then comes the question, okay, I can generate 4 times or maybe even up to 10 times the amount of code. How do I know that this is correct? So what are the mechanisms that you train an agent on to actually check on other agents' work, right? Because right now I can tell you the absolute delta in terms of the performance of a coder right now is maximum 50%. Not 10 times. That's all hype. Because the cognitive load of checking what you just generated, which is maybe 5 times higher, also increases, right? So your net delta is 50%. That's number one. So then the last thing is, right, I think the most important thing right now, especially in such a fast-moving world, is to give students confidence. And that does not necessarily mean that you follow a program. Like in Singapore, we all know we have a very tough education system. It worked for a long time. But the reality right now is a lot of our students can't get jobs because a lot of the companies are downsizing, right, because of AI. So what we are doing is we're actually thinking about this right now with a very generous donor, where we are going to pick a very small number and literally a handful of people that may or may not be students, but have an excellent, outstanding idea and character and confidence, right? And we will take these people within the university so that we give them a few $100,000, and they're supposed to take that idea using university resources, including AI, because nowadays, if anybody's a coffee lover, right, you can just go into Claude Code or ChatGPT. Your website for selling that brand of coffee is ready in 15 minutes, right? If you have the artwork, even better. It'll look even slicker. So then if we give it this opportunity to these students and not with coming out with a degree, but they come out and realize their ideas, so that compared with a fresh graduate, let's say from computing, you earn $5,000 a month, maybe more, depending on, how skilled you are. And this person took their own idea, used the AI and whatever other tools that they needed, started a company, and all of a sudden he's making $10,000 a month, right, with their own idea. That is basically going to be, I think, a lot of the future, where we want to inculcate the confidence in people to be able to drive ideas and not follow.
I think that's a perfect point to pause. And I'm definitely going to look forward. So starting 2026, right? You're going to do this program.
Hopefully.
All right. Audience, one last check. Do we have any quick questions from the floor? Otherwise, I'm going to bring the panel on the home stretch. It's fine, because what the panel has done is given us a couple of issues to think about. In this last segment, we're calling it the way forward from 2026 to 2030. And you've already launched us in that direction, Sian. So I want to start with Holger. How do you see regulation and innovation working hand in hand to address the current challenges and the emerging challenges, since the elephant in the room, AI and AI governance, has been brought to the table? Yeah.
That's a very big question, but I try to put together the bits and pieces that were shared here. Starting with talent, I fully agree that we need to give the young people confidence and also opportunity to demonstrate that what they have learned and how they work can be put to an actual use today. Not in perfection, but they need to be able to apply it. And an example that brings AI in again, because there's so much talk about AI, and we heard in the earlier panel again, more walk, less talk, and the uncertainty is, how do I make sure that I master the AI that I put into my software or into my products, and how can I be reasonably sure that it would be safe to use it? So we started a startup, but again with partners, because TÜV Süd as a 166-year-old company would possibly kill an idea, not harness it like you described. So we brought in an investor, Future Lab Ventures, and the commercial launchpad of EDB, to give it a chance to thrive. And then we looked into, the company is called Aquiris, AI, Q stands for quality and risk for risk, to basically look into how can you structure and measure the risks of AI and evaluate it in a way that makes it eventually auditable and certifiable, and how does that give you a little bit of assurance that you're on the right path. And the people who work there are not the old guys like me. I mean, there is few who have the experience how to navigate the corporate world, but it's people from different disciplinary backgrounds, not only engineers, but many engineers, who find an environment where they can just try out new things, and we have no idea whether it works or not. So we basically leave it to them to find the problem that is the most pressing one and find ways to get the solution and gradually improve it, and the investor makes sure that it is also commercially interesting or investable. And it's an experiment, but that would be, to me, the way forward, and also the experiment you have described, identifying eminently qualified individuals and allowing them to incubate their idea. And that, in conclusion, brings me back to this simplicity thing. We just need to do it. So a little bit, the future basically starts in what we do today, not what others may or may not do tomorrow. So we have a lot of ideas, we have a lot of abilities. We should just put them to use a little bit every day.
Yeah, you're true.
Last appeal maybe to the regulators in Europe, because that's a pain point for us. Even in the EU, you have differences in pragmatism, and you have digital regulators in the Netherlands, in Denmark, in Estonia, which are much more modern, faster, and effective than the regulators in Germany. the German regulators may be more capable in terms of knowledge, but the smaller countries see themselves as partners to business to get things done. And I think that's something we also need to harness, an environment of governance and regulation that is supporting business, not seeing itself as an adversary, but trying to get things out in the market now and good enough and gradually making it better.
The clock is on us. So, Lai, 2026 onwards, what would your priority areas be?
So we will continue to do cool things in Singapore. So we are actually building at the moment one of the most innovative factory in Singapore. So what we do is we combine the real and the digital world in the sense, because we are starting to build a factory virtually already. So we have the virtual twin of the factory, we have the virtual twin of the manufacturing processes, and now we're in the process of physically building it. And the cool thing is that you can simulate and play around already everything. And once it's up to life, we will connect the two, the physical and the virtual world together, and we continuously optimizing it. And the factory, we are producing industrial controller. So this is also one of our top product. Industrial control is something that you can imagine you need in every automation line. Yeah, so if you have a bottling line, if you use elevators, you use manufacturing, and in every third automation line in the world, by the way, there's a Siemens PLC in there. And so you can imagine that this is really a cool product we're gonna produce in Singapore for ASEAN and beyond. And so I'm super excited about this project because we want to demonstrate also what innovation, automation can do with a location such as Singapore, which has rather higher costs comparing to others. But we want to demonstrate that it's possible here in Singapore.
Keep that word cool, Lai, because in the final round, all four of you will have 30 seconds for a parting message. So we will come to that. So for Yao and for Sian, 90 seconds each, your final thoughts on 2026 to 2030.
Okay, I will talk from business expansion perspective between these two countries. And I think we already have touched based on sustainability, this topic, and also industrial transformation, digitalization. I think these two are the one of the two big trends that shape the business expansion. And I also want to highlight the third one, which is about supply chain diversification. And I think this one is very important, I see, for the companies to scale overseas, and for they take Singapore as a launchpad to Southeast Asia to have the China Plus One strategy, for the German companies coming over, and also for companies going to Europe or to Germany. They will see actually Germany as a stable gateway to Europe market because it has a very good infrastructure and also a stable policy towards sustainability and also other business development regarded issues. So I would say for Germany, it's really it's not only a market, but it's also a long-term partner for the region. And I also encourage companies to talk to us, Germany Trade and Invest, as we provide the free consultations for companies that are interested in Germany. So we are here as the reliable partner for you.
Thank you, Yao. Sian.
So we've been talking a lot about AI and other engineering style stuff, right? But I will switch gears a minute and actually do some service, right, for my colleagues in medicine and biotechnology, and ask the question, to the audience, right? Have you seen what's going on in China right now in biotechnology? Because if you haven't, it's something that I really think you should take a very close look at. So what we will be doing, right, with the increase, right, in terms of sophistication, quality, thoroughness, scientific depth, and cost, right, is to work with biotechnology companies, right, from Europe that want to basically be more efficient in terms of how they basically take their products to market. And again, taking the classical position of Singapore as a crossroads, right? How can we position some of these, right, and work with China partners so that drugs that benefit humanity, right, come up to the fore faster than everything else, right? So that is one area that we're very bullish on, and we'll be looking very deep into that sector coming on, plus everything else that we talked about.
No, but it's a good way to end the conversation. So panel, you were not scripted for this, but I'm going to start with Holger, then I'll jump to Sien, then I'll go to Yao, and then I'll give Lai the last word. Please address the young people out there who are watching this and who most likely might pick up your podcast in 2026. A parting message, and it actually was inspired by you, Lai, because you mentioned cool, right? So what's your parting message, very short, 10 seconds, to the young people out there, Holger?
It's cool to live in today's times because there is so many opportunities that can be converted into solutions that make life better. And if you're based in Singapore and Germany, you can build on 60 years of relationship. We have our second headquarter here as well. It's a gateway to Asia, it's a gateway to Europe. So if young people want to deploy their skills and their ambitions to something useful, here is the place to do it.
Thank you. Sien.
Come to NUS, join our NUS Overseas College program, and have the chance to work in Germany.
Yeah.
I would say why it's only for young people. I guess our audience can be also different kind of groups.
You have the power to change the message.
Okay, yes. I mean, for us, we are kind of the later stage at the others, the German company, the institutions for the exchange. And these are the basics for later when they think about market expansion. I would say for companies here, just open your eyes, look at different markets other than Singapore, and we would help you make your informed decisions about where to go. But do remember that Germany, it's a big market, but it's not only a market, but a long-term partner for your growth in Europe.
Thank you. Yeah, very nicely put. Lai, you have the final word.
So you are living in a cool place. You're living in a cool time. So pick up the technology innovation that is available today, combine the real and digital world, and transform the everyday of the people.
Thank you all. Can we give the panel a round of applause, everybody? So that's all the time we have for this panel discussion. Please join me in thanking our panel. And once again, I'm going to go through the names. Dr. Tan Sien Wee, Yao Tang, Dr. Thai Lai Pham, and Holger Lindner. And thanks to all of you watching us, listening to us, and in the studio for your participation. Up next in the third episode, 4 speakers will delve into how Germany and Singapore both foster unity in diversity through various initiatives that recognize and manage their multicultural populations. Till then, I'm Mohsin Atwan. Thanks for being with us on the Grow Talks series.